All right. Welcome to day 4 of our Advent meditation series. And today we'll be using a meditation using sound. I love all of these different forms. I think because I have loved opening the doors to the fullness that's found in silence for so long in my life, that I have developed a real deep appreciation for all of the mechanisms and practices that let that happen for me and for anybody that I get to serve. So this one is equally as loved as the heart and the breath and the observation and so many of the others. I'm going to begin by reading the words that were in the newsletter and then move forward from there with our reflection. And then before we do the meditation, I will teach you the 3 Sanskrit words that will form the mantra that we'll be toning. So here are the words that form this topic called No Longer Weary. Come to me, all you who are weary and are carrying heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. This theme to me is very important to the Western psyche when it comes to our personal peace, our self-realization process. Because part of the gift I have found in the Western psyche is a reward system for hard work, a reward system for denying yourself rest, a built-in reward system that has been really advocated through media. For instance, I can remember back in the 80s, the big media campaign, no pain, no gain. So it's really deep, deep in our psyche. And I tend to think that that there are always multiple ways to look at things. So I don't tend to be somebody that says that's all bad. There's something pretty powerful in the Western psyche of realizing the personal autonomy in our life, of realizing we are capable of more than what we may know, of recognizing that with discipline, with focus, with intention, with devotion, that we can both name goals and accomplish goals. So there's something very, very beautiful about that. And I'm not about throwing that all out. But what has been troubled, I won't say 100% lost, because we're all on this call and we can buy in a bit to the futility that goes with all of our own efforts in our spiritual growth at times. What is important to us is coming to the place of the discernment of knowing where our effort is helpful and where our effort is either sabotaging or limiting, or like a Sisyphean effort, right? Pushing the big ball up the hill and knowing it's just going to roll right back down again. And so this focus today is an invitation to you to go a little bit deeper in your own openness to yourself, in seeing where have you taken on something, anything, a belief, a duty, a responsibility, a memory, an expectation. Where have you taken on anything that has become a burden or a yoke that is difficult or heavy which is the opposite of this phrase. Yoke is easy, burden is light. And so I leave you with that to reflect upon outside of our meditation. And I want to share words from a Hebrew text that I love that opens this up a bit more. It's from Isaiah 53. In fact, I have very often cried with this because I think without my realizing, I tend to shoulder a lot. So it's real easy for me to tear up when I hear this, because it's like, oh, come, everyone who thirsts, come, you who thirst, come to the waters. Come, you who have no money, and eat and drink. Come, have wine and milk without money and without price. Why do you spend your money for that which is not bread, and your labor for that that does not satisfy? Remarkable, just remarkable to let ourselves be touched by those words and to delicately notice where we pay the price for that which does not satisfy. And instead of going through the effortfulness of repeating that cycle or even resisting that cycle, to ask the deeper question, why am I paying that price for that what does not satisfy? And secondarily, what is my soul longing for? And thirdly, how can I make a choice that meets what my soul is longing for? There's a simplicity there. It's not necessarily easy. So jumping back to the words of Jesus, what I find interesting about his phrase, and now I'm not speaking to you as a theological, scholastic theologian. I can do that. I love that form of inquiry, but these sessions really aren't about that. They're about what hits us. And there are many things that can hit us over time in different ways. And what's hitting me here in this passage is that in the invitation, and this happens so often in the messages of Jesus, he'll say, come and see, come and try it out. Come be with me. I long for you. Come. And here in this statement, he's saying the same thing. Come to me. But he follows it with something very interesting. He says, I'll give you rest, like a true friend. We find rest in a friend. But after that comes how we get the rest. And that is by taking a yoke upon ourselves. And that yoke, I believe, is the coming close to an individual that experienced lasting peace, that was so aligned with their mission in being incarnate God in the world, like we are called to be, so aligned with that they discovered a secret. Come learn from me, because I've learned it's not meant to be heavy. I've learned it's not meant to be difficult. I have learned with this surrender of all these limited ways of looking at things, that in the surrender, there is an effortlessness that your life is meant to be about. And when you learn from me, you will find what? It doesn't follow up that I have something great to say. The greatness of the message comes from what he says, I'm gentle and humble of heart. He says, I have become an individual that is truly gentle and humble of heart. And those are the people we want to learn from. Those are the people that impart a message to our souls, because they have been touched by the very burdens and the very yokes that have failed to satisfy. And he gives a very confident fruit you will find rest. You will find rest. So it's worthy of coming and seeing with a message that confident. It's worthy to try it out and see, wow, is this possible? I want to read a passage of a mystic whom I love. She's a Carmelite like me. And if you're not familiar with her, you're going to have to bypass, you're going to have to let the meaning of her message bypass her languaging, because she comes from a very flowery French effusive background, and she's a real lover of Jesus, and that's Therese of Lisieux. And she is someone that mastered what we are talking about here. She gives many, many stories of how she discovered it. And I want to share with you a playful story of how she discovered this easy path, this yoke, this burden. And the Hebraic translation for yoke, the understanding there is not so much the yoke that's on the shoulders like an oxen, that can be interpreted that way. It's the yoke that is the servitude, that is the bondage. It's the yoke of what binds us to whatever we're faithful or committed to. And so the invitation from Jesus's words is to actually let go that's not satisfying you. Let go that servitude. So here she gives a great example, because she was looking. So now she comes from a period of time that is highly influenced by unworthiness. And it's called Jansenism, was prevalent in the French culture at that time in the late 1800s. And it was a theology and a philosophy that meant you came to perfection the more you could consider yourself unworthy and dirt. So she struggled with that. She was young, she was influenced by it, but something in her said, it can't be that way. It just can't. You can't have a God that's love and say that the way to union is saying that you're unworthy as a creation. You just can't. But she struggled with it. And ways of perfection were ways of penance. There was a lot of reparation in her monastery. They used the discipline a lot. They fasted to extreme degrees. They took oaths and vows to live lives of reparation, committed to suffering. And she said that is not the way. It's just not the way. So among her many writings, here's one short story for us today, and I think it will give you a little smile. I am determined to find an elevator to carry me to Jesus, for I am too small to climb the steep stairs of perfection, Therese said. So I sought in Holy Scripture some idea of what this lift I wanted would be. And I read, whoever is a little one, let them come to me. And she's so spunky. I also wanted to know how God would deal with this little one. So I searched and I found from Isaiah 66, you shall be carried in her arms and fondled in her lap as a mother comforts her child. She goes on, it is your arms, Jesus, which are the elevator to carry me. There is no need for me to grow up. In fact, it's just the opposite. I must become even littler. What she's referring to here is a return to the innocence, the childlike innocence that is in the world from a place of wonder and discovery and believes all things are possible and that it can happen with ease. That's what she discovered, that is the path of perfection. And if you don't know anything about her, believe me, she really put her money where her mouth was. So in that, what I wanted to do was allow our sound meditation today to be a mantra all about the vibrational experience of this level of surrender and trust. And it's called the Saranagati mantra. It's very simple. If you're familiar with any Sanskrit, you will know these three words that are mantras in and of themselves. Very simple. Om Namah Shivaya. The understanding here with this mantra is that the inner self is Shiva. And as we bow to and open up to the inner self in surrender and trust, we come into wholeness. Now, the word Shiva actually means the good one or the auspicious one. But in our understanding of Shiva, we understand it, right, as a certain form of consciousness, the light of consciousness as well. Many different meanings and translations. So Om, the allness, Om, the consciousness in form, all is one. Namah, I bow to, you bow to. Shivaya, that which is within me. So we're going to surrender. That's what we're just have a little act of surrender, just like Therese, a little inward elevator, if you will. And we're going to do this very simply. If you know me, you know I love to chant, and I love intricate chants, but for sake of us all doing this together, both on this call and when you're doing it by yourself, we'll keep it really simple. The toning is going to be this. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Remembering that the toning itself activates us cellularly. It activates. So it's better than listening. Listening can be very good. And when we slip into stillness and silence, we might want to just listen. I'd like to encourage you to try, if you can, to use your voice, even if it's very soft. You have to stay on mute because of the echo that happens on Zoom. I'm going to use my mala. It's 108 beads. We probably won't have time to do the entire 108, but we'll get as far as we can. All right. So I invite you to close your eyes as I close mine. And let's sit just in a couple minutes of, or just a minute of silence to let the message of today sink in a little bit more. We are so fortunate to be together, spending our time in this way, Inviting in a breath and releasing. And inviting in a breath and releasing. And after the next in-breath, we'll begin. Om Namah Shivaya. 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 We take a brief period in silence, just letting the mantra sound within us. And we begin again, inviting in a breath and exhaling. And inviting in a breath. Om Namah Shivaya. 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 and inviting in a breath. And once again, Om Namah Shivaya. 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 And one last round, inviting in a breath. Om Namah Shivaya. 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 And while we bring this meditation to a close, the sounding can continue within you. Let yourself allow this sounding to continue. When you're ready, wiggle your fingers and your toes and open your eyes. Blessings, my friends. Looking forward to tomorrow.